Welcome everyone. Grand Gnosis Master Dr. Thor Templar here, and let's cover one of those really exciting and fascinating areas to all those really manifesting scientists who really get it, and that means old technology certainly has value in this reality. Not entirely, but blended with everything else. And let's talk about the ancient technologies of Grimoires, specifically spirit evocation. This is always a fascinating area, and certainly should be. And one of the things about ancient technologies is that you're talking about dealing with basically nebulous energies. There's nothing there physically in terms of our pitiful understanding of it. Yet, we are able to manifest or contact energies which will help us manifest into physical reality things. This is how spirits are, and spirits have different uses, and there's different levels of spirits, but basically a spirit is something that will produce or manifest a certain type of energy for you, whether that's spiritual influencing in a particular area, whether it's positive in terms of building or whether it's more negative in terms of destroying. But destroying isn't necessarily negative, and people misunderstand that as well. Tearing down an old building, is that negative? Putting up a nice modern one built with all the conveniences, is that negative? Of course not. So people need to understand this. Yet any manifesting scientist doesn't get involved with the worship of anything, period, nor getting under the control of them by getting into their payoff scheme, which is offering certain levels of things to spirits, including which comes down to actually blood. So this connects you and binds you to the spirit, and they control you. Anytime you do this, you're their slave. That's not a manifesting scientist. A manifesting scientist is always in control. So this is a fascinating area of ancient tech, and that's what it is. What did the ancient technologically advanced people do? They did magic, as we call it today, otherwise known as manifesting science. They weren't doing it for the sake of spiritual enlightenment. That is certainly part of all technologies. But they were doing it to survive. They were doing it to save themselves in battle, to heal themselves, to bring things to them. We live in a very physical reality, whether we like it or not. Now, you can't be totally enslaved by that because it becomes a trap. But on the other hand, we are physical entities, and you need to take care of the physical stuff, whatever that may be, whether it's food in your belly, sexual communication, or money in your pocket. So all of this is important. Now, let's get into the ins and outs of this. Now, we have a complete system on this. We have all the ancient grimoires, the only correct translations of them, by the way. The rest of them are muddled by Satanist goofballs, uneducated teachers and professors. We have the only translations done by a working occultist with actually a naval intelligence training in translations. Which everybody assumes is good, and of course, in this case, is good because of the fact that this person is a trained occultist as well for over 50 years. So you're getting that. Not only that, you're getting actual sigils that communicate in the proper language of spirits, which is images, into your inner magical being, so that you can contact spirits much easier. Now, the term there is much easier. Nothing is easy. If anybody could just get one of our books or do ritual magic and control the world, they'd be doing it already. It's just not happening. These, again, work within your life and give you fantastic manifestation capacities, give you that fantastic edge that nobody else has. So it means you, as an individual who learn the proper systems, and that only comes from IGOS, is the fact that you can beat anybody out there. So just because they're educated, have more money and connections, using magic gives you the ultimate edge. It's important to understand that. But it is not something that, oh, well, buy a couple of books, do this and that, I'm done. Well, I'm afraid if that was the case, the opposition would be using it, and you probably wouldn't even be alive. So you have to train yourself properly, and that's using guild books with these very unique, empowered books to begin with. The books are talismanic in nature and connect you to those energy streams. So if you get a Honorius Grimoire, you're going to be connected to that. You're going to have images, sigils that connect you further. Now, this is moving you right in itself 60% down the path. You then have to be skilled at how to use ritual magic in general. Grimoires are not complete most of the time. They are meant for intermediate to advanced students. That's why we have our easy-to-perform Golden Dawn basic system. You need to learn ritual magic in general. Plain and simple. You have to be good at ritual magic if you want to invoke and evoke spirits. Now, you invoke positive spirits, angels, and spirits of that nature. You evoke spirits that are more dangerous and more self-centered, kind of like humans. It's always nice to have a human over in your living room, give them a drink and some food. You want them living in your bedroom and when you're sleeping at night? Well, I don't think that's a smart thing to do. So the whole idea is you keep them at arm's length. And whether the spirits are good or bad, and something that Western tradition tends to overlook, I reward them. You give them gifts. These usually are down to candy, particular types of fruits like dates and figs, things that are special. Alcohol, again, don't get the rot gut. Give somebody good alcohol. And of course, never ever eat any of these things. They're all thrown away. If you do that, it's kind of an Indian giver, and the spirits could be insulted, and they will not work for you. You do the same with all the spirits, and when they do manifest for you, you give them more. And make sure you do this. So instead of giving them a shot glass worth of fine scotch, you give them a large glass. And more things. And specialized candies. So these are the type of things you do to reward. Never ever give blood. You connect that to it. I've talked about that already. That is ridiculous. So, and the people that do this, regardless of how powerful they claim to be, become the slaves of those spirits. And they ultimately, indirectly worship them because they're giving them blood sacrifices. So the question here is, and I've been working with a few people in these areas, is, well, what they're trying to say with all their questions is, what is the real secret to get spirits to work for you? Well, the bottom line is that we don't know that, and we don't know why. There's little to zero evidence. Only the Guild has done research in this area as best we can, but to be quite honest with you, you can't really believe anybody that talks to you. They get involved in something, they're dedicated to it. It's like people who buy expensive cars, who then say how much they love them, because they've already invested $80,000 in them. And they're not going to tell you that they were an idiot and bought a crappy car, like was the instance with so many German cars, which are just garbage cars that are sold for very high prices. Ugly designs, backward engineering. Oh, it's the best. Yeah, ooh. Yeah, well, it's nonsense. And you don't get the proper feedback. Lots of people, you can't get I hear manifestations from people, and then when I track them, I find out they're not doing that well. Now, are they following through everything properly? Are they going? Well, I find that people don't train themselves properly. And this is something that, while we move people up to that 60-70% level of manifestation, which is awesome, everybody wants 100% and they want it for a nickel. Well, I'm afraid it doesn't work that way, and they want it to work in 10 minutes. Now, this is our goal, of course, as an organization, and personally, I don't want to spend any more time than you do. But learning all these things is critically important. And you have to make sure you get the books, train yourself. You get a grimoire, well, you got to follow that up with the Golden Dawn system so you make sure you're doing ritual magic completely. You got to know how to banish. You got to have banishing tools. You should have banishing formulas, incense and other things. So in case you get into problems, that you can actually use these. The other things is you should be using incenses and oils and other things along with your ritual magic as a follow-up. So if you're doing success rituals, well, you should be burning a Crown of Success incense. You should be using the formula oils for that as follow-ups. This keeps the energy going. So there is an illusion of the fact that you think that you can just go out there, call on a spirit, it does your bidding, it's over with. Well, this is very great Hollywood magic, and as I said, there's a little proof that this actually works on a consistent basis. So you've got to follow the procedures. You should be using, of course, our audio amulets, which are critical. Again, the books, the amulets connect you, the audio amulets connect you to these streams of energy so you can communicate with the spirits at a very strong level. Now, this is all modern tech, because in the old days, the only time you communicated with the spirits was the fact that when you did the ritual. Well, this is a pretty bad way of doing things. You want to keep that stream open, so when you finally communicate with the spirit, you want to be able to have this as strong as possible. So that's very important. It's also important to have a physical amulet for that energy. Again, if you're trying to connect to a particular group of spirits, having an amulet, which means you're communing with that stream of empowerment on a consistent basis, is very important. These are all the essential things that modern tech offers. So if you're not using these, you're stuck in the old paradigms that don't particularly work too well. So how does all this work? Well, we have to look at ancient societies as well. I mean, people like to look at the Egyptians, particularly Jewish magic, where so much comes from. Well, these are two societies that were conquered. And when it comes to the latter, the Jewish societies never maintained a society for very long. King Solomon was conquered. In general, the Jews were conquered and enslaved for hundreds and hundreds of years. Well, where is their great magic? Now, that doesn't say the magic doesn't work. It means that it is not all-powerful, and we need to understand this. Even the great Egyptians were conquered by the Greeks and Romans, and the Greeks occupied Egypt for, I believe, 700 years. And this is where a lot of Greek technology and other things come from. And why there's this interesting mixture out of Greek systems, and why there was so much wisdom there was because they combined what would be called more of a Western system with the Egyptian system, who was basically Atlantean-based. So we need to keep all that in proper perspective. So getting things to work to the level that you want to see in movie land type results is really unknown. All the people that claim to do this really don't have a life to show that they have done it. You hear lots and lots of stories, and all of these are unable to be verified. Can spirits appear? Well, yes, they can. And why there aren't more photographs of these things, I don't understand. Photographs of spirits do work, and they work all the time. People that claim they're the only one that sees the spirit, well, you're seeing it in your own confused mental illness mind. That isn't it. If the spirit is real, it appears to everybody, and everybody sees it, not just you. So this evoking spirits to physical visualization, to see them, is something that is possible, but extremely rare. Generally, it's a waste of time. It's a nice ego trip for you, but you've drained a lot of energy from that spirit instead of say, hey, go out and get me what I seek. So understanding how ritual magic works is very important. Following a correct system is very important. Chaos magic, dog shit garbage, stay away from it. All these little Satanists that claim to be doing everything, working in their own little groups, have achieved absolutely nothing. They have nothing to show for anything. They're all propped up because of their little gangs that they get together and support each other. Like any organization that gets together and supports each other, they have a modicum of success. Are they doing anything? Not really. They have nothing to show for it. They don't have anything that show the physical world realities. They have little wealth. They don't have any great relationships. They have nothing. They have nothing to show for it. Until a Satanist comes out and sitting in front of his Malibu mansion with his Ferrari and his 6 bimbos, I don't believe any of it. And of course, even showing me that means nothing to me until I can prove that you manifested it, and this is not some sort of con or some rented thing like so many success gurus do on YouTube. So, and it's been a long story of people standing in front of Rolls Royces and Learjets and saying it's theirs when they just popped it there. So we all need to understand that in this world and move on from it. What is going on is a big con with a lot of people telling you stuff. Yet they don't do it, they don't make any money. I mean, occultists are notoriously poor losers. They work for, and this includes all those so-called Satanists who work for Llewellyn and others, where they get peanuts for their work, and oftentimes are hired on staff because they don't have any jobs. A lot of these writers that you see from Llewellyn are working for Llewellyn, creating more of their garbage books and involved in their cabal of evil practices, as it has been alleged of Llewellyn, who seems to be connected to all sorts of dark magic people, and hires them as well, as Edred Flowers will tell you, as he worked for them and is good buddies with Llewellyn's founder. So as we go into all these things, we need to quite understand of how ritual magic works and this key to it all. And you got to remember that all mastery and getting the results above what are told in books, and what is at a common tech level, which is tech is an educated person who follows the book, takes that you have to understand and be told through your inner magical being when you make connections through using sigils of what is best for you to communicate with and manifest at the highest possible level from the spirits you're trying to contact. This is all part of the process of a master, and that's what you're expecting. You want master results, and you want to have basically a high school education. Well, it doesn't work that way. Not only do you need to become a tech, which can be related to a college education, at least 4 years, maybe 6 years, to become a high-level tech, but a master is graduate work. You're talking about master's degrees, doctor's degrees, people who spent most of their life, 10, 20, 30 years, practicing something at a technician's level so they ultimately master it. This is what it takes to be successful in anything. It has nothing to do with just that. People that have the long-term experience and have the greater understanding are people that we call the master old-timers that have learned from experience. Well, why didn't they learn from the book? You're using the same book. Well, no, they've interpreted the information through practical application and brain power to figure out, well, the book says this, but if you do this, you get better results. So this is how it all works. Secondly, you need a master to guide you, and of course that's what all the guild books are. This is just not junk out there put in fancy covers, or as I like to say, turds wrapped in leather like you get from most people, the self-appointed, uneducated masters. They're not masters, they're low-level technicians tricking you. They have nothing to show for their success. So we need, in everything of life, we need to cut through the illusion and the blockages and get to where the facts are. A lot of powerful systems are hidden behind the lies of others to keep you away from them. Then there's the plain and simple fact of people telling you they have all these secrets when they really don't. It's just turds wrapped in leather. So keep that in mind, follow the path I give you, and success is assured. But it's not going to happen overnight, even though successes generally are gained relatively quickly, but not the Hollywood results that you really seek. Until next time.